Tank, what do you think Tua and the Dolphins' focus is in this one? Also, Mike McDaniel might be my favorite coach of all time.
Yeah, mine too. And I
Me too.
believe that when you just see Mike McDaniel on that video, just kind of bouncing around practice with the shirt on, that shows you that he's trying to make sure his team goes into the game with the right mindset, which I love. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, like you could tell yourself all that BS about like the weather doesn't matter and all that until you step into that shit. Like I played a playoff
It's
game in
cool.
New England where it was minus 18 with the wind chill.
Oh my
And
god.
trust me, like your body moves differently. Our mouthpieces froze when you have them in your helmet in between series. Like my head coach had like this big beard and stash and like beard and mustache. He has snot sickles frozen on his face after the game. Like, so don't act like you just going into this cold weather game is going to be like any other game. Like, nah, that shit doesn't fly. That
Yeah.
being said, we have to factor in some of the things that these teams are dealing with. I still feel like the Buffalo Bills have to get over the loss of Von Miller, even though some of those other guys along the defensive line have stepped up. I don't know if that's just going to be a one game kind of push or if they're going to have some consistency there. And on the flip side, I mean, we know is that Tyreek Hill, the weather's going to slow him down because it's going to be a little colder. Like when it gets cold, your body just doesn't move the same. And he's also dealing with the injury too, which won't feel as good in cold weather as it does when you're playing
Mm-hmm.
in warmer temperatures. And so that being said, I feel like the weather, I feel like the gravity of this game may play a part. Both of these defense, when you look at the stats, they're kind of fairly comparable. The only place where they really stand apart, where Buffalo clearly has that advantage, is in interceptions. But otherwise, you look at sacks and how they play the run, how they play the pass. If you look at the stats, fairly comparable. And so, with
Mm-hmm.
both teams scoring 40 points in the conditions that we had earlier this season, and now we have an over under at I saw like 42, and I see on the screen right now we have 44. If that's what the case is, I mean, I would definitely lean under in this one, just given the conditions, given what's at stake, and thinking that both of these defenses are going to try to bow up and limit these offenses, and then also having to play in this inclement weather. So that's my lane, but interested to see what Jared's take is going to be in this one.
Yeah, Jared, I mean, you look at a game like this, Tua Tagovailoa heading all the way up to Buffalo to play in the cold, flurry, frigid temperatures, but it is true. I mean, even when like I remember back in my soccer days playing back in Michigan, and you get hit with a soccer ball on the quad and it feels like your leg is about to fall off your body. I can only imagine what it feels like to be tackled in that cold weather. Who do you think
And
comes
we
out
get to
on
wear
top?
more
Because
stuff than y'all when
7 points.
y'all play soccer. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Who do you think
Wild.
comes out on top? Because 7 points is still a lot of points for the Buffalo Bills to be laying.
Yeah, my numbers have this as like a 4.5 point spread. So I do think before you make any weather related manual adjustments, yeah, Miami's kind of the right side here. We saw it open 7.5 and it got bought down off the 7 and a hook. Even saw it get down to 6.5 at one point before we saw a little bit of Buffalo buyback. Total's been kind of all over the place. Open 48, driven down right away after Miami struggled offensively, and then the weather down to 45, then all the way down to 41, and now we're starting to see it tick back up over the last 12 hours or so overnight into the morning, and now it's kind of hovering right around that key total of 44. So again, the magnet of 7 key number and 44 key number, it kind of rules the way that the betting markets work. That's fun. Let's get into the actual handicap of this game, which I think is a lot more fun. There is an intriguing statistic that we can't quantify every week, and it's mentality. And I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo is a mentality champion as much as their odds are saying they are going to be a champion, right? Like we've seen them hit some adversity this year. We've seen Josh Allen at times play underneath what his physical skill set should indicate. And now that they lose Von Miller, they lose a little bit of that edge defensively. I'm not saying that Buffalo is going to morph into a bad team overnight, but again, I ruled them out to win the Super Bowl when we saw Von Miller was out for the year. And it has nothing to do with Josh Allen and his talent. They need that. And now they don't have it. And there's just a little fragility, I think, between the ears with this Bills team. Whereas I think with Mike McDaniel, it's kind of the opposite. And they've hit the skids. They've struggled. Tua is being exposed. it's not a very difficult adjustment to make. The Dolphins like to throw the ball deep middle. So now, after 10, 13, 14 weeks of seeing that, Tank, I'm sure you've heard this in practice your entire career. Outside leverage. Make them go. Do not let them go deep middle. Make them go to the outside the hash marks. Make Tua throw the ball for long distances and be accurate. And he's really struggled in that regard. 10 for 28 last week. Yikes. So if you're Sean McDermott, outside leverage all day. Make these guys run the out routes and the routes that Tua doesn't like to throw. And I think that's probably the handicap that I would lean on in this game. But if Buffalo can't get pressure on Tua and maybe they can run the ball a little bit, I could absolutely see this game being close. I'm a little worried about the Dolphins defense holding up. We'll see what the weather is. We'll see how much of a factor it really is. Usually the weather in our minds before the game has a bigger factor than actually what happens, but the cold matters. And this will be the coldest game Tua has ever played. And we'll get to a game in a few minutes with the Eagles that also will be played in a very frigid climate that I do expect to have some impact on the efficiency of the offense. So Tua's taking a nosedive, and we'll see if Mike McDaniel makes the adjustments. But they're taking away deep middle, and they're making Tua throw outside the hash marks. And over the last few weeks, he hasn't been very good doing it.